What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. This episode is brought to you by Virtual Intelligence, your premier partner for client-facing and back-office virtual employees. My name is Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Shawn Fitzgerald, founder of Sound Harbor Insurance in Long Island, New York. Shawn, how are we doing today?
Good. Sound Harbor still sounds weird. I'm not going to lie.
We're 4 episodes in. I got to keep looking at my notes on that after the rebrand. You're throwing me off.
But yeah, man, dude, everything's good. We're, it's cool because you and I have worked on a couple of accounts together in the past. And right before this call, we were working on a pretty nice sized deal together. Literally right before. Yeah. So, dude, it's so much more fun when you're working on an account with somebody else. And that's the kind of the beauty of this industry is like there's so many great people in the industry.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, dude, just having a good time today so far. That's all.
So far. I'm excited for today. And I said to our guest, what I love about podcasting, and the reason almost 2 years ago I said to Shawn, fine, let's do it, is because of the relatability, right? And when Michael joined on, I'm like, this is fantastic because I've been listening to your podcast. I've been following your story. I feel like I already know you, but it's the first time we met. So we're going to jump right into it. We got Michael Weaver on the show today, founder of Weaver Sales Academy and co-host with his wife of the Insurance Buzz podcast. Michael, how are you?
I'm good, brother. How are you doing?
Good. Fired up to have this conversation. We can take it a million different directions. But for those that are learning about you for the first time, let's give just a brief bio. And then I know we want to talk about a few different things to get through the conversation today. But thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Yeah, absolutely. So brief bio, I've been in the industry. I'm going to date myself a little bit now. So for 15 years, started as a producer, just like many of us. Went on to open a Scratch insurance agency in 2014. And then my wife and I did that together. And I know we'll get into that a little bit around that story, but we went on to form a few other sales businesses as well, from fitness to direct sales to SEO, and then obviously formed a coaching and consulting company in 2018 after we talked to almost 500 agents over a 1.5 year period. And I kind of heard the same 5 pain points. And so we wanted to create something that would help agents eliminate those pain points. And so that's how Weaver Sales Academy was formed. And in 2022, we decided to exit our agency along with 3 other businesses to pursue our coaching and consulting full time. So now we work with over 5,000 insurance professionals across the country, just taking that training off of agency owners' plate to help with consistent training in the agency. So that's long story short, that's what we do. You kind of already said we have an Insurance Buzz podcast, author of Game Changer, taking your insurance agency to the next level. I have a new book coming out in October that I'm pumped about called Quote 3, How to Make Multiple 6 Figures in Any Sales Organization. But that's a little about me, man. When I'm not working, I'm on the lake, I'm on a mountain, travel in the world. So that's what I love to do. That's the best thing about, I would say, entrepreneurship is after you put in the work, you have the processes and systems in the team. There's a lot of flexibility and freedom that can come with it.
Man, so many places to begin after all that. I was going to bring up the wakeboarding thing if you didn't already. I was going to say during all of that in his spare time, you can find him wakeboarding at the lake there because that's been fun to watch. But let's go back to 2014. Let's go back. You hang the shingle, day one, starting the agency, the why behind that, something that's going to be relatable for these folks that are listening to that in those early stages. Tell us what that was like for you.
So it was scary. It was hard. It was tough. My wife, little background. So my wife and I got married in February of 14, and we went into the business thinking I was going to do it myself. Well, between February and April, we made a decision to go into business together. So she quit her W-2 job. Honestly, we had $5,000 to our name at that point in time. We may not have even should have been given the agency opportunity, but I had a proven track record of production success with the company that gave me the opportunity. And so we literally just hit the pavement. Cold calls is what we did back then. I kind of hustled because I was 26 years old. My wife was 28. We really didn't have established credit at that point in time. So, and the company I went into business with, I didn't actually own the book of business. So it was a captive carrier, a great opportunity, but without that ownership, I couldn't get banks to give me a line of credit, any money. And so I hustled. I found a lead provider transparently that was like, okay, I cut them a deal. I was like, if your leads are as good as you say, and they're just data leads, I was like, give me your leads, give me 5,000 leads for free. And if they're as good as you say they are, I will send every single agent I know your way. Long story short, we came out that first month. We put up over 220 items. Had a lot of agents reach out. What are we doing? And I told them. And so 20 agents signed up with them. They gave me 50,000 more leads for free in my county. And that's literally what we use as a cold calling method for the first 12 to 18 months of our agency career. Was built off of just straight grinding, hard work. I was a glorified team member, CEO, janitor, just trying to make the damn thing work, man. Like it was tough. It was scary, but it was a lot of fun. And a lot of things I would change or maybe do a little bit differently. But the lessons I learned from that experience and back against the wall, burning the boats, that's something that has helped me a lot throughout my tenure as an entrepreneur.
Love that.
That's awesome, Mike. So you buy these leads, and now you're just these personal lines leads, commercial leads.
They were what they were is they were mainly auto and homeowners leads in the county that I was in, and we really tried to target homeowners just because I knew that would be better business. And the data leads, they weren't like X-date leads; they were just straight phone number, email, and address, which is all I needed. It's what my team needed. So I had 2 sales associates that started with Courtney and I. So we had a team of 4. She was really great at helping me coach and train, but she also took a lot of the service work off the plate, because as we know, sometimes salespeople are not the most organized when it comes to getting that paperwork in that needs to be. So she was making sure everything ran smoothly. And I literally we were making 150 calls a day, every single day per person in the agency. And that's actually one thing I'd like to hit on that I did end up changing, because I ended up burning people out throughout that first year. But that's how I was taught. Like I was taught, just do more, just hammer the phones, do the activity, and the production will follow. And while that may be true to a certain extent, about the 18 to 24 month mark, after I'd burned out employees, I started focusing more on the things that actually moved the needle in the agency versus just the high level activity that would draw the production in. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And I would imagine if you're not burning them out, they're staying more consistent over a longer period of time, which is probably going to produce better results. How did you, quick question before we move on to the next thing, how did you get 2 people to get on board with you right from the jump? I'm curious to hear about that.
Like buying in or financially?
Both.
Both. So the company that I was with, they definitely put a lot of pressure on you, specifically in that first year, used to back then, because you had like a 1-year trial period basically to get your contract. So gotcha. They gave me a bonus when we started that first month. And so I used that bonus to make payroll, and I made sure that my production was high enough on a monthly basis to be able to cover their payroll. So I knew that anything that they drew in or they produced was basically like icing on the cake. So when I say I was a glorified team member, I was putting up anywhere between realistically 30 to 50,000 in premium a month myself, just to make sure that I could cover their base salary. So then whatever they produced would cover their commission. And because we paid ourselves a little bit that first year, but really I was just concerned with investing back into the business and making sure that I could pay their bills. So when I say I was a glorified team member, I was in personal production. I was producing the P&C. I was meeting with clients. Every single client, we met with about 81 to 82% of new households over that first 18-month period. And I was the one doing all the appointments. So I was pretty good at also the financial services production, which had a higher commission rate. So that was also how we were able to pay ourselves. So ultimately, we were able to pay ourselves off of the financial services production. The P&C production covered the base of my team, and then their production really covered the commission that they were owed on a monthly basis.
Very cool.
So going back to, Sean will go on about the leads all day long if we don't change the topic. So I'll do you a favor, Sean, and pivot.
Thanks.
Let's go back to the 2014. You mentioned there how, things I would do differently. What I love about that conversation is all of those experiences in our life and our agency journey are what craft us to what we're doing, right? You're not going to know differently unless you go through and do it wrong, incorrect, however you want to word that. But for someone that may be listening to this and in the 1-2 year range or whatever, like, what are some of those first things that come to mind of like, man, I would do this different, as far as your experience?
So the very first thing that comes to my mind is what I hinted at earlier. So again, like, to give you just a brief background, so I held every single person accountable to 150 calls a day, every single day in my agency. So if you're a licensed sales producer, you were smashing the phones every single day. And the problem that I saw with that, and the production was there, but the problem is they were getting burnt out. They signed up for a fulfilling career, and nothing about making 150 calls is fulfilling or meaningful. So I was basically running like a mini call center with licensed sales producers in my agency. And while they were hitting their numbers, exceeding, sometimes they'd fall short. What I actually discovered over the 18-month period, when I had a come to Jesus conversation with myself about a year and a half in, because quite frankly, I was also getting burnt out by making the 150 to 200 calls a day myself. Like, I wouldn't say I enjoyed cold calling, but at the end of the day, I knew that I had to do this to make sure my bills were covered, to make sure we're growing the agency the way that I wanted to grow. Because we had a goal, we were only personal lines, really no commercial. And so we had a goal of growing at $1 million a year in premium every single year. It was a low premium market. And so I just knew, like, hey, we have to do the dials, because that's all I'd ever been taught. Fast forward 18 months, and what I would change if I went back to today is I wouldn't be focused on the calls, because what I actually discovered is my team was more focused on the activity than they were the actual like conversation itself for the production. So they were more focused on getting the 150 dials done a day every single day, which you're missing out on a lot of opportunity, because they would be getting a lot of contacts, but they're not converting those contacts into quotes, because that's not what they're concerned about. Right. Yeah, sure, they did have to produce, but they were just concerned because I was holding them accountable 150 calls a day every single day. And so what I actually changed to at the 18-month mark that changed my career forever, and I would recommend every single insurance agency owner do this, is track what actually matters. And what actually matters is the conversations, the quotes that your team is having every single day with clients. And mathematically, what we really structured that down to was 3. And I have measured this across thousands of agents that I've helped. 3 conversations a day. If you can have 3 quality conversations a day with a client. So when you call them, you have your elevator pitch, you have your rapport, you have your discovery conversation, you have your proposal, and then you're asking for the sell. My rule was 3 times. So that's how I defined a conversation and a quote. That if my team could have 3 of those a day, they were closing at least 1. So we always averaged around a 30 to 33% close rate. So I knew, hey, all you have to do is have 3 quotes, 3 conversations a day, every single day, and you're going to be wildly successful, because at 3 quotes a day, let's just make the math easy on me here, over a 20 working day period, at an average close of 3 items per household, each producer is writing 60 policies a month. Then when they get a little better, now they're closing 4 items per household. Now when they get a little better, they're closing 5 items per household. Mm-hmm. But the magic here is actually focused and having a clear path for your producers as to what actually matters. And what actually matters is the conversations that they're having every single day with clients.
So Mike, I love this. So how do you,
here goes the numbers. I can see it. I can see it.
How do you make the producer or the CSR or whoever's having those conversations better at having the conversation? Or are you utilizing and tweaking scripts? Is that something you would do?
I am a trainer by nature, brothers. We would train every single day. So scripts, but really it was the training piece. So we had a morning routine every single morning. So at 8:30 to 8:45 every single morning, we would do 15 minutes of training over and we typically do a topic a week. So maybe the topic was the elevator pitch or the rapport building or maybe life insurance. And that was the first 15 minutes of our day every single day. The second 15 minutes of that 30 minutes was our first daily huddle of the day. Like, hey, what are your big 3 activities that you're focused on today? Where are your hot leads at? Who do you got in the hopper? And then on a daily basis, I would coach in the moment, specifically in those early years. So if I heard somebody on the phone, I would, as hard as it is, because you have so much shit going on, from production to janitor to networking, everything. But I made it a really clear focus those first really early on 2 years, to where when I heard one of my producers on the phone, I would really try to stop what I was doing, listen to them. And then after the call, I would come out and we'd have an 80-20 coaching session. Hey, this is what I heard that you did really well. This is what I heard that you could have maybe done a little bit differently. And this is how I would have said it or done it. And so we had multiple meetings like that on a daily basis. I was meeting with my team. I'm a big fan of one-on-ones. So every single week I would meet with my team one-on-one. And early on, I changed the structure a little bit as I progressed as a business owner. But early on, a lot of those one-on-ones were about sales training, where you add on your goals. How can I help you accomplish that? But it was constant training, constant coaching every single day. And with my new hires, not to get too in depth with that, I used to spend 3 hours a day every single day for the first 30 days with them, getting them up to speed and ready to rock and roll. And a lot of that was all sales training, prospecting. How do you, less about systems, more about conversation.
That's awesome. So first 15 minutes of every day, you're doing training with the team.
Yep.
Are you doing role playing?
Yep.
Okay.
It just all boils down to intentionality, right? Like, you developed what worked, you developed that plan, and you stuck to it.
And look, I'm not saying I was not perfect. There's some days that was just hey, what's going on? Shit happens.
Yeah.
Let's get caught up. But I would tell you a large majority of days, because training is something you do. It's not something you've done. And so it was really important for me to create a culture those first 30 minutes before the phones turned on, because our phones turned on at 9 o'clock. So it was really important. Even our CSRs, as we progressed, they were part of these meetings, because they would role play with them and they would be the customer. And I thought it would be important for the CSRs to also hear these conversations, because when they're taking rate increase calls or whatever the calls, they could have a conversation around, hey, I notice your liability limits are only 100, 300. Have we not talked to you about an umbrella policy? And so we win as a team, we lose as a team. That was my motto my entire career. That's still my motto in any business we're in. And so just that 30 minutes every single day, we're meeting as a team, we're getting better, we're getting ready to crush the day.
So good.
I love that. I feel like initially it seems like a lot, right? Right now I'll meet with my producer. We talk all the time, but it's scheduled once a week. Every Monday we go over the sales number and all that stuff. But I do like the idea of having a more formalized system in place for that training. Now, again, last part of this, when you're setting up the training Monday through Friday, the first 15 minutes of the day, it's a different topic every day, or you guys sticking to one topic all week? What does that kind of look like?
So this is the hard part for agency owners. So this is part of why we created Weaver Sales Academy, for personal lines agents. When it comes to auto, fire, life insurance, there's nobody else better out there with what we've created. But back then I had nothing, and a lot of you all have nothing, or you may not be invested in anything right now. So the hard part is you have to go out, find the information, you have to organize the information, you have to deliver the information. And so to make it easy on me early on in my career, I would typically do a topic a week, or I would even say, okay, this month is dedicated to the multi-line sales conversation. And the first week we're going to tackle that elevator pitch rapport building. The second week we're going to cover the discovery conversation and qualifying the lead. The third week we're going to do the proposal and value statements. The last week we're going to review overcoming objections for an entire week. And so that's just how I would structure it to make it really, really easy on me. As I typically did monthly topics versus weekly topics, because it was just easy to break down. And at only 15 minutes a day, you can't cover a lot of information. So it's really 5 minutes of training, 10 minutes of role play.
Gotcha. All right. So the conversation is something extremely important to focus on, which I totally agree with. What is one other thing, most common mistake you see newer agents make?
They're not patient with the process. I know I wasn't. And what I mean by that is we live in a world of instant gratification. and the work that you're putting in, specifically in the insurance business. Insurance is a long game. It is a marathon. This is something that, yes, you can have success with it immediately. I would say that we were fairly successful our first year. I mean, we were a top 100 agent out of 20,000 agents. But what doesn't typically happen immediately is make a ton of money. And so the one thing that if I could change anything going back, when I say patient with the process, is I would have actually tried to invest more into the business back then. Now, again, I didn't have a ton of money, but the money that I was making, I could have invested more back into the business, which would have helped scale and grow it quicker. So instead of growing at $1 million a year, we could have probably grown at $1.5 million to $2 million a year if I would have invested back. But quite frankly, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was operating out of scarcity. I was scared. I was operating out of, gosh, dang, I don't want to be a failure here. Everybody's looking at me, when in all reality, that's not true. But when you're operating out of scarcity, things can get really tough. And so I did what the only thing I knew how to do, and I just produced, and then we made money. We put it in the bank. We were made up enough to finally hire another producer about 18 months in. But what I would have done is if I could do anything differently, even if I didn't have the money, or if I'd have been in the same situation, I would have went around to banks begging them for money. Maybe somebody in the community that has money that would be willing to lend you money, and I would try to invest as early and as much as I could, specifically over the first 3 to 5 years of your business, because those first 3 to 5 years are the most critical to your success in the future.
Mm. I want to ask you this question with your Weaver Sales Academy hat on, as well as your Scratch Agent hat on. A question that we see in the Telegram a lot is that next hire from that one-man show. Should I get a service person? Should I get a producer? When do I get a producer? When do I get a service person? All of these things, $1 million questions, sometimes quite literally. What is your response or conversation around that topic?
Me personally, I'm a sales guy by nature. I believe the best way to grow your team is with great people. And so I would try to find a dynamite salesperson to hire, because number one, it'd be a lot of fun. That's going to create a little bit of camaraderie in the agency. You're going to have someone by your side also producing. And so personally, that's just what I would do. And then when you go to hire that part-time CSR, it'll be easier because now you have 2 people producing, which should drive more revenue. So then you could actually hire a part-time CSR relatively quickly to help with some of that service work. So I'm always going to lean towards the sales side, because in my opinion, sales cure all. Sales cure all. You sell, you make money, it cures every problem you have. So I'm always going to lean towards the sales rep.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I think I've told this story once before on the podcast, but I paid a little sum of money to ask Patrick Bet-David's team a question one time about this topic, and I sent this long message. This is where my agency's at. These are all the metrics. What should I do? I'm kind of confused on what I should do next, right? And literally, the team's response was sales, 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 sales. Just focus on getting more sales in the door. Literally, that was the response. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense, because more revenue is going to solve most of your problems that you're having, especially early on. So yep. I couldn't agree with you more on that, Mike. One thing I wanted to ask you too, before we get to the end of this thing, is what key skills do you think newer agents should focus on to help them become successful? Is there a particular skill that you would say, hey, whether it's leadership or whatever the case is?
Yeah. So leadership is a skill that is, it's learned through time. It's learned through the mistakes that you make. It's learned through the conversations that you have. It's learned through the problems that come up that seem like huge problems at the time, but as you move on, you'll learn that those really weren't that big of problems, even though they seem like huge deals at the time. That's one thing I've learned over the last really 15 years, specifically 10 years of being a business owner, is really so when a problem arises and your emotions start to take over, Don't make a decision based off of emotions. Really try to settle yourself down, give yourself a day or two to think about it before you just make an instant decision based off of emotions. Because I've made a lot of bad decisions based off of how I was feeling emotionally about the situation or the problem versus a day later when I had time to actually process it. I was like, I could have done this better. So leadership is definitely a skill that if you're going to run a successful business, you have to be a leader of people. And so my number one rule is always, always, always treat your people great. Like go above and beyond for them. Be willing to run through a brick wall for them, because if you're willing to do that, they're going to eventually buy into you enough that they're willing to run through a brick wall for you. This is kind of not has to do with skills, and I'll get back to the skills question, but one thing I think that we did really well and learned throughout our career is the easiest way to motivate a team member or a licensed sales producer is tying the goals to their goals. So having a really great conversation when they start around, hey, what's your 1-year vision, 3-year vision, 5-year vision for your life, finding out what's important to them, what goals they have, and then helping them understand, well, here's our goals, here's your goals, here's what you have to do here to help yourself accomplish this. And so that was one thing from a leadership standpoint that we really did well, specifically later on in our career, of like every single quarter, we would do a vision board. We would revisit our vision boards. We'd revisit our why, just to help them, because I want to be bought into them. I want to know what's important to them. And quite frankly, it's my job to help them accomplish that through the career that I've provided them. I always told every single person that came on in our agency and any business that we own, I guarantee you are going to be a better person in 6 months than you are today with the skills that you are going to learn throughout this process. So a little bit about leadership there. Another skill that I believe that any agency owner needs is you need to understand how to sell. You need to skill up. So leadership's great, lead people, but also there's going to be times when things aren't going well. You have to get in the trenches. Sometimes you may have to be your lead salesperson. Maybe that will never happen and you can be the CEO from the very beginning because you have so much money. You maybe started a little later in your career. But if you're like a lot of agents I know, you're going to eventually have to get in that seat and you're going to have to sell. So make sure that you are investing in yourself from a leadership standpoint and a sales standpoint to become the best salesperson you can be, because sales is something that we do in every aspect of life. So the better sales professional you become, the more successful you're going to be.
Yeah. And it's so funny around this topic is like, it's hard to lead if you haven't done it yourself, right? So like if I'm trying to tell my sales producer, hey, hit 60,000 in premium, but I've never done it myself. Like, I wrote down this quote before this conversation because I knew this topic was going to come up, and it says, you cannot help someone else get up a hill without getting closer to the top yourself. Right. And I feel like that just ties in perfectly to leadership in any capacity, whether it's having the cross-selling conversations like a CSR would have, or, trying to hit certain numbers on a monthly basis to help motivate the producer. So, man, that's spot on.
Well,
I'm
a huge proponent, especially early on in your career, of leading by example. Lead by example, get in the trenches, show, if you have a producer that's struggling, get on the freaking phone with them and be like, yo, let's make some dials together. And just leading by example, getting their buy-in, creating that culture. Now, later on in your career, you're going to evolve and you're going to have to grow into the person that it takes to run a team of 5 people, 10 people, 15 people, 20 people. But you will learn these skills throughout the way of what you learn over the 3, 5, 10-year period of managing people and leading people, and the mistakes that you make, because you are going to make mistakes, but you'll learn from those mistakes and you'll become a better leader just because you're in it every single day. And so that's why I say leadership is a skill, definitely, that you have to learn. But the only way that you actually learn leadership is by becoming a leader in your business. And of course, you can invest in yourself. I'm a big proponent of reading books. There's a ton of leadership books out there. There's a ton of masterminds out there. So the easiest way to become a better business owner is to associate yourself and get around other great business owners. So don't forget that as well. Like, invest in yourself just as much as you invest in your business, because the better you become, your business is automatically going to increase as you increase.
Gotcha.
So good. I want to continue to walk through your journey and work our way into the life of Michael Weaver today with everything you have, the sales academy and all that. But tell us, you grow this scratch agency, you're rocking and rolling. Tell us the point of transitioning through the exit. Was that always the goal of we're going to build it to this point and then exit? Was it a surprise thing of like, hey, I really enjoy doing this? Like, tell us that story.
Yeah, man. So, and transparently, look, multiple times throughout my career, I was like, is this for me? I don't know. Like, again, I told you guys about burnout earlier. 2016 was a really, really hard year for me. And I honestly had to have a come to Jesus conversation myself after being a little depressed and not doing shit for 5 months. And I was like, all right, I got to turn this ship around. And we did. And that's honestly when we started to do some of the things I'm talking about right now with leadership changes, what we're focused on as a team, what's actually important. And then in 2017, my wife and I, so we worked really hard for that 18 months to really form a team culture. In 2017, the reason I'm telling you this story is my wife and I went on a 30-day trip to New Zealand, Australia, Thailand. And I didn't take my laptop. I didn't work at all on that trip. I came back to 3 hours of work and I was like, man, these processes and systems that we did, my team actually does better without me here. All right. So like that was an eye-opening, it was just really eye-opening for me because up until that point, I thought I had to be at the agency every day, working long hours, like kind of tying my self-worth to my production, quite frankly, that worthiness factor. And so long story short, 2018, we start Weaver Sales Academy. It really takes off in 2020 during COVID, because every other coach and trainer has always done the same thing that all coaches and trainers do. And the only way that you could get a hold of them is if they're at your agency. Well, we have an on-demand system that could train your team for you. And we did virtual coachings every single week. And so a lot of insurance agency owners turned to us during COVID and they didn't quit turning to us after COVID. And so in 2022, I pursued my passion because I felt like I would never be able to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish unless I went all in on it, period. Like the businesses were great. They were running like the insurance agency, quite frankly, I was only spending 10 to 20 hours a week there, but there's still the distractions. There's still the things that come up. There's still the licensing. There's still the compliance. And then we had 2 other businesses at that time as well. And so I decided, and it was a really tough decision because we were making pretty good living at that point in time with those businesses. They were cash flowing really well, but I just had to make a decision. Am I okay with a comfortable lifestyle, or do I want to pursue my passion and go all in on my dreams and just see what happens? And so that was the decision that I made. And I wouldn't change anything about it, man. Like it's been a lot of fun over the last 2 years. I've learned a ton in 100% remote business. But I get to do what I love every single day, like talking to you guys. Like if I was still running 3 or 4 businesses, I don't know if I'd have the time to do that. So we started the insurance buzz right when we got rid of exited all the businesses, and it's been a lot of fun. It's fun when you get to do what you love every single day.
So cool. What a cool story. I mean, everything you're saying there is right in line with maybe somebody looking to leave their comfortable job to start an agency.
Yep.
Right. A lot of those things like, hey, comfortable salary. I want to go all in. I want to do, this for me. I want to build it for my family and take that jump. And I think to your point, there's never the right time, right? But you just got to do it, and you have to go all in on yourself.
Yeah, and let me add this. I love insurance. I think insurance is the greatest career opportunity in the world. It is the easiest way to make multiple 6 or 7 figures, depending on how you build your agency. I think it's the greatest opportunity. I decided coaching is also a great opportunity. And it was something that I had, like, the only way I can describe this is think about the fire that you have in your belly right now when you start a new agency or a new business. You're excited, you're rocking and rolling, you're ready. That fire left my towards the end of my career as an agent. Like the fire left, I wasn't excited about it. But the one thing that I was consistently excited about is what I do. So from 2018 to 2022, every time I got to do a training, or anytime I talked to Weaver Sales Academy about Weaver Sales Academy, or anytime I talked to an agent and helped them out, man, I was on top of the world. And I'm like, I'm going to follow this passion and this energy because it excites me. It makes me happy. I get to do what I love. But when I was an agent, I also loved being an agent. I loved getting to help out customers. I loved leading a team. I loved watching the agency grow. And so I don't want that to sidestep that. Like, I think insurance, I say this all the time, is the greatest opportunity in the world. And I think it's a career and business opportunity that gets overlooked because it's considered a boring business. Man, while it may be a boring business, it can produce a really lucrative lifestyle.
So
and you
cool.
get to do something that is fulfilling and meaningful. You're having conversations with people every single day about what matters the most to them. You're the protector of assets. Like every insurance professional in the country wears a huge A on their chest. Just like Superman, you're the protector of assets. You have the ability when somebody's house burns down, I'm getting a little fiery right now, but somebody's house burns down, that they're taken care of. They total out their car, they're taken care of. Something happens within their business, they're taken care of. Lord forbid a loved one dies, they don't have to struggle financially and move in with parents or file bankruptcy, have to move the kids out of the house. Like, there is the most noble profession in the country, in my opinion, is being an insurance professional.
100% agree. 100% agree.
I'm with you on that, Mike. Mike, but we can't let you go without asking what the 5 pain points are. You said it in the beginning of the podcast. I don't know if you can disclose them here, but maybe give us 3, however you're feeling. But I would love to hear what the 5 are.
Let's talk through these. So
Sure.
Number 1, management skills was a huge deal. All right. So what I mean by management is having set processes and systems in place to actually hold people accountable to. So really the pain point was the inability or the unknown of what processes and systems should I create, or what processes and systems should I implement within my agency. All right. So that would be the number, like a pretty good pain point. Number 2, selling. What I mean by selling is most people, in my experience in the insurance industry, have never been formally sales trained. So when I was early on in my career, I invested, that was one of my biggest investments I made early on in my business career in 2014, is I actually invested in a sales training program. So sales training I'm a trainer by nature, but I believe, again, sales cures all. And so what I found with a lot of agents is they weren't sales trained. So that means they didn't know how to train their team. So no training for the team. Well, if you're not training your team, you're setting your team up for failure. So that was a major pain point. When it comes to training, the other pain point was not only did they not know how to do it, they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it. And that's fair. That is fair, because you're wearing so many hats as an agency owner that, quite frankly, if you don't like it, you're probably not going to do it, because you're not going to make the time, because you could theoretically be doing something else that you like, that you thought was more productive for your business. So that was a pain point. A major pain point would be tracking money in, money out, and just throwing money at the wall through different various marketing efforts, and pretty much just like a spray and pray type of thing. And that happens to all of us, look, especially early on in your career when you're trying to figure it out, but really tracking that money in, money out. And then lastly, this was just a pain point that I found of working. You believe that you're going to sign up and be like a business owner, CEO, whatever that mindset is. But what a lot of peers found themselves doing is actually working 15, 18-hour days and going into debt, like not being profitable. And it wasn't even necessarily good debt. It was just they kept their same habits before they went into the opportunity. So the same habits they had with when they had their W-2 job or were making money, they continued that, but they weren't making any money as a business owner. So they thought they were going to sign up for a really lucrative opportunity, which it is very lucrative with time. And so they went into, a lot of agents I talked to were multiple 6 figures in debt. And if you have a plan for debt, I'm all about debt. Again, one of the things I said earlier, invest heavy into your business, but have a plan. Have a plan, a 6-month, 12-month, 18-month, like these checkpoints of, hey, we should be here. We should be here. We should be here. You're checking your marketing strategies every month. Every 3 months, you're measuring what's working, what's not working. So I would say those were typically the pain points that I stumbled across. Processes and systems, driving and leading a team. We're not selling as much as we want. And what do you guys think about that?
So
Yeah,
good.
I agree completely. I mean, management skills, Stephen knows, process and procedures. That's something I love, and I try to live by at my agency. The sales skills is a huge thing. To touch on that real quick too, because I just read on this the other day. Again, I paid somebody to just help me with sales training, different words they use and tonality and things of that nature. And I feel like so many issues in sales can be solved. And this is what this person told me, can be solved by just having the right enthusiasm. Right. And it's like the simplest thing. But if you get on the phone and you're just like, yeah, hi, this is Shawn from Sound Harbor. How you doing today? Like, versus like getting on the phone and being happy. Hey, this is Shawn from Sound Harbor. How can I help you today? Like, the shift in tonality makes a huge difference, because, and when he said this to me, it really opened up my eyes. It's like, unfortunately, it's sad, but most people aren't in the best of moods and aren't happy. So if you can be that like bright light for them, it's a game changer.
So good.
So that's so enthusiasm sells 100%. Like your energy, you can transfer your energy to the person, the prospect, either across the desk or across the phone from you. Like that's one of the very first things I teach in sales, like enthusiasm sells. When you're making calls, when somebody picks up, you got to be like genuinely enthusiastic. Like, I don't want you like over the top. I want you to be genuinely enthusiastic. Just like when you are going to propose your rate, like, hey, the quotes came back amazing. Before I get into the quotes, I always use disturbing complacency, like a red flag popped up. And when you get really good at that, they're like, what are you talking about, a red flag? But you have to be enthusiastic. If you're not excited about what we're doing for the client, they're not going to be excited about what you're talking about. Insurance now, baby. Like, let's be honest here. Like, people ain't getting fired up about talking about homeowners and autos, but you have to make it exciting. You have to draw them in. You have to ask them questions that nobody else has asked them, because that's what's going to make you different. Like, you are the differentiator moving forward, specifically in the AI and tech world. You have to have the ability to establish that human connection. And so you are like, out of everything you can control your attitude, and you can control the enthusiasm, the conversations that you're having with people every single day. And that is the difference maker between you and every other insurance professional out there.
Yeah. 100%.
So good. Before we wrap this up, Mike, tell us about the Sales Academy business and everything that you got. What should we know about all of that, and what do you guys do over there specifically?
Yeah, man, thank you. So our main goal is to take the training off of the agency owner's plate. So what I mean by that is when you're hiring new licensed sales producers, specifically in the personal lines world, so auto, fire, and life insurance, we have a 10-day plan that will get a brand new sales producer, never sold insurance, never sold anything, up and selling in that auto fire conversation in 7 days. And then we have a built out 90-day training plan for them as well, that by day 90, on average, they're producing about 50 items a month, 45 to 46 auto fire, about 4 to 5 life. And we cover that multi-line sales conversation, prospecting, closing techniques, pivots. We also have a tenured team member training curriculum that on average within the first 90 days, tenured team members are experiencing a 40% increase in auto fire and life production. So we have a tenured team member training program as well. But ultimately, our goal was to create a system for agents to where you don't have to go out and find the information or organize the information. We've got all of that created for you, and it allows for consistent training within your agency. So we work with a lot of new agents, and we also work with a lot of agents that are expanding into multiple locations to ensure that consistency, but also helping them implement the consistent processes and systems. So that's what we've got at Weaver Sales Academy. You can check that out at weaversa.com. Would love if you connected with me as well. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on any social media platform, but LinkedIn is by far my favorite platform. It's just where I connect with a lot of professionals. So make sure that we connect. I'm always putting out a lot of free value. And I have a new book that I would love to talk to you guys about coming up in October called Quote 3, How to Make Multiple Six Figures in Any Sales organization. I believe that this book is going to revolutionize the way that people think about sales. So it doesn't matter if you sell insurance, coaching, life insurance, financial advisor, you may sell private jets. This book is for you because I defy what we've all been taught, and I hinted at it earlier, is that you don't have to make more calls. You don't have to spend more money. You don't have to hire more people to be successful. Actually doing more of the wrong things just equate to more of the wrong things. It's actually about doing less of the right, all right, more of the right things, but less, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so this book
Cool.
really helps the sales cycle. People understand, because in my opinion, the reason why people aren't successful at sales is they don't understand the sales cycle. So I break down everything from discipline within your day to discipline within your life, to determining your ideal client and creating your ideal client, to figuring out where they're located, to that multi-line, like that conversation that we're talking about today from start to finish, and then how to drive a referral from every single client that you have. So you can check that out at quote3book.com, or just go to Amazon and type in quote 3. It comes out October 7th. So if that sounds of interest to you, a huge help for me would be to go and pre-order that. That'd be a huge help.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And make sure the Insurance Buzz podcast, correct? Did I say that right?
Insurance Buzz podcast, baby.
That's
We
right.
get buzzed on the buzz. It launches every Monday and Thursday. We love that. We have some tremendous guests on. We actually need to have y'all on. That would be fantastic. But yeah, the Insurance Buzz, you can find it anywhere that you can find podcasts.
Awesome. Mike, thanks for joining us again. Everybody, that's another episode of the Scratch Agency podcast. Thanks for joining us. Do us a favor, like the show, share the show, and subscribe. But most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, in your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.